welcome back to Everyday Fitness. Unfortunately, I'm by myself today because of lockdown restrictions. What I'm going to go through today is how to work out your macronutrient intake. So hopefully you can read this, working out your macros. Now I know Liam went through how to work out your calorie intake in the previous video, went through different ways you can do that, went through the importance of working out sort of maintenance calories, and then you can dictate where to go from there. So I'm going to work out now, once you have that calorie requirement, when you know your calories, how to break that down into your macros, your protein, fats and carbs. Now there's two essential macronutrients, there's one non-essential. I'm going to go through that right now. Now before I start, it is important to state that these are just guidelines. These aren't numbers that you have to be hitting on the dot. These are just guidelines. These are how I like to set up a diet initially, and then depending on the individual, depending on their goals, the current situation, these numbers can change, and likely will from time to time. We're going to start with protein, which is the first essential macronutrient. So essential macronutrients basically mean that we need to have them in the diet for just sort of function, health. Without them in the diet, we're not going to function very well. We're definitely not going to be healthy. Again, hopefully you can read that. Now, protein gets banged on about all the time. Like I just said, it's an essential macronutrient, so it's important for health, function. Has many different roles within the body. One of the roles that is often spoken about is muscle mass. So that's growing muscle mass or retaining muscle mass, which for a lot of people is going to be their goal. So if your goal is fat loss, you want to improve body shape, whatever it is, retaining muscle mass is going to be important. So the equation for protein. We want to be hitting 0.8 to 1.2 grams per pound of body weight each day. Now this is obviously a bit of a scale, 0.8 to 1.2. And where you sit on that scale will again depend on you as an individual, your goal. For example, if your goal is fat loss and therefore retaining muscle mass is a priority, then you might want to sit up higher up the end of that scale. Whereas if your goal is muscle mass and you're in a surplus, you can probably sit towards the lower end of the protein target and focus on other macronutrients that might benefit you slightly more, which I'll come on to later on. But as long as you're sitting in between this range, you're going to be okay. Secondly, we're going to go on to fats. Now, big debate between fats, carbs, which is better for X, Y, Z. I'm not going to get into all that right now. Well, maybe a little bit. However, all I'm going to say is, for me personally, and how I initially again set up a diet, I tend to keep fats low, and what I'm going to go through today is sort of the minimum healthy intake. So the sort of equation, the amount that I wouldn't go under, this is the minimum that I would hit, just for again, health, function. You might want to go higher than this, by all means, but this is just the minimum. And that is 0.25 to 0.3 grams per pound of body weight. So again, if you're working out that right now, that might seem like a very small amount of dietary fat. And that is, again, because this is the minimum healthy intake. Now you might be sat there thinking, well, Matt, I've heard that a high fat diet is actually better for fat loss. My reply would be, that's not necessarily the case. We've actually compared high fat, high carb diets, and they found to be very similar fat loss results. So again, I said I wasn't going to get into this. I'm starting to now go on a bit of a tangent. I'm not going to get into this. All I'm going through here is the minimum healthy intake, and I'll now talk through why I like to keep fats low and prioritise carbs. So, carbohydrates. Now I'm going to talk through why I like to prioritise carbs over fats. Couple reasons. Carbohydrates, when it comes to anabolism, so basically sort of growth of muscle mass or retaining muscle mass, carbohydrates play quite a positive role in that, because they affect two pathways, sort of glycogen and insulin mediated pathways, which help with anabolism. A little bit complicated maybe, just basically carbs are good for growth. Carbs are also very good for performance, so training, resistance training, which is going to be pretty important for our goals. So it would make sense to keep carbs pretty plentiful within the diet where possible. So the equation for carbs is really simple. Basically, the rest of the diet. Okay, so we need to work out calories for protein, which we know is 4 calories per gram, fats, which is 9 calories per gram, and then the rest is going to be carbohydrates. So let's just say we have a 180 pound individual. They're going to hit 1 gram of protein per pound because it's bang in the middle, which is then going to be 180 grams of protein a day, which is going to equate to 720 calories because it's times 4. So we've got 720 calories of protein. Now for fats, this individual is going to sit on the 0.3 grams per pound, which will come at just over 50 grams. Times up by 9 is going to be 486 calories. Let's say that this 180 pound individual is on 1,800 calories to make it easier. We're going to take away 720 for the protein. We're going to take away 486 for the fats, and that is going to leave us with the amount of calories for carbohydrates, which is 594. Didn't just work that out. I do not have a calculator down here. So that's in calories. This would equate, to work this out in grams, we would then just divide that by 4, which would be 148.5 grams of carbs. So now we have it. These are our calories for macronutrients. That will equate to 1,800. I'm confident. Do the maths. Add them up now. So then there we have it in grams. So you've got 180 grams of protein, you've got 54 grams of fats, and you've got 148.5 grams of carbs. That's that person's intake every day. Hopefully that makes sense. Like I said, these are just guidelines. These are sort of how you maybe set up your diet, and then it might change from here, depending on the individual, depending on your goal, etc., etc., etc. Hopefully that all makes sense. If you can't read this, and this just all looks like a big, like algebra or something, what I'll do is I'll put like a little, somewhere around me, I'll put up a little equation or all this math, just so you can see it. You can pause the video, you can have a look at that, for it to make sense. Any questions, put them in the comments, let me know. Hopefully this has helped. Thank you for watching, take care.